Thank you. We'll be starting in just a moment. If the rest of you would like to take your seats. Good evening, and welcome home to Principia College. I'm Duncan Charters, the senior faculty member of the college. Our new president, Jo Westerhoff, who needed to fulfill a long-standing prior commitment outside the country, has informed the faculty and students of arrangements for commencement, including her request that I preside over the baccalaureate service, a great privilege indeed. This ceremony is the culmination of much prayerful work by this year's speakers, now in their senior year, and is a key activity during commencement weekend, which celebrates our 114 graduating seniors. Let me begin tonight. Let me begin tonight with a little background on the tradition of the baccalaureate service. It was originally a religious preparation for graduation, an expression of joy and gratitude, during which, in some institutions, graduates wore laurel-berry wreaths, Baccalaureate in Latin, to show they had overcome the trials and tribulations of their struggle to become educated men and women. Legend has it that the baccalaureate dates to 1432 at Oxford University, where each bachelor degree candidate was required to deliver an address in Latin as part of the graduation exercise. I say legend because I'm quite sure that my alma mater, Cambridge University, was doing something long before what we call the other place ever got the idea. They were called services because they featured sermons from graduands, those who are about to graduate. In one case, almost 4 hours long, from a graduate determined to show off his education and eloquence in Latin. Be assured, we have used a stopwatch on tonight's student representatives. The baccalaureate services continued throughout the Middle Ages, and the tradition has passed down through the centuries. The first baccalaureate service on record at a liberal arts college in the United States was held at Williams College in 1864. Baccalaureate ceremonies have traditionally been focused on the graduating class, designed to place the moment of individual and collective transition out of college and into the wider world into a more reflective context than the commencement ceremony itself. Our baccalaureate service offers a quiet and intimate opportunity to pause and reflect on this unique rite of passage. Hear farewell sermons and advice from classmates to the graduating class. In addition to our seniors, we have some other special people to acknowledge tonight, the families and guests of our graduates, to whom we extend an especially heartfelt welcome. Our baccalaureate service is being live-streamed tonight on the college's Facebook page, as well as broadcast internationally over Principia Internet Radio. Welcome to all who are listening in from afar. Although the baccalaureate is inspirational in nature, it is no longer a religious service as such. That means you can feel free to applaud at the end of the organ offering and the vocal selections, or anywhere else for that matter. I wasn't setting that up. The final offering this year will provide a special opportunity for a joyful celebration in the religious traditions of Africa, in which we'll all be invited to take part. We'll begin the program with a musical selection in which college organist and music faculty Dr. Rose Whitmore will perform on organ Sir Edward Elgar's eloquent Nimrod variation from his orchestral Enigma variations. Following Rose's performance, Professor of English Literature Heidi Snow will provide the readings. Rose?
I shall read first from the Bible, Exodus. And the Lord said unto Moses, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they go forward. God led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Isaiah. And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand, and when ye turn to the left. John. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. And whither I go, ye know, and the way ye know. Thomas saith unto him, Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way? Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Deuteronomy. The eternal God is thy refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. I'll also read from Science and Health, from Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. As the children of Israel were guided triumphantly through the Red Sea, the dark ebbing and flowing tides of human fear, as they were led through the wilderness, walking wearily through the great desert of human hopes and anticipating the promised joy, so shall the spiritual idea guide all right desires in their passage from sense to soul, from a material sense of existence to the spiritual, up to the glory prepared for them who love God. Stately science pauses not, but moves before them, a pillar of cloud by day and of fire by night, leading to divine heights. Knowledge that we can accomplish the good we hope for stimulates the system to act in the direction which mind points out. It is the prerogative of the ever-present divine mind and of thought which is in rapport with this mind to know the past, the present, and the future. Acquaintance with the science of being enables us to commune more largely with the divine mind, to foresee and foretell events which concern the universal welfare, to be divinely inspired, yea, to reach the range of fetterless mind. To those leaning on the sustaining infinite, today is big with blessings. Let's pray together now, first silently, and then with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
Thank you ever so much, Rose and Heidi. Next is the singing of hymn 179 from the Christian Science hymnal. The words are printed on the inside front cover of your program. I'd now like to welcome to join me on the stage the senior class agents, the representatives of the senior class. These are Robbie Butler, Lauren Fulton, Caroline Gathogo, Jake Kearney, Harriet Oma, Zach Telshaw, and Deirdre Wright.
Hello, classmates, families, and friends of Principia. My name is Jake Kearney.
And I'm Megan Selby.
And we are 2 out of the 8 class representatives for the graduating class of 2018. At the beginning of the school year, we were tasked with raising funds for our senior class gift, with the intention of continuing to create a culture of philanthropy. We gathered input from our classmates, faculty, and staff to think of a gift that would be both tangible, sustainable, and have a short and long-term impact.
Through a lot of thinking and decision-making, we decided to raise funds from our fellow seniors to put water filler stations into 2 campus buildings that don't already have an upgraded system. We recognized our class's strong desire for sustainability and thought that these water stations would be a great way to reduce the number of plastic water bottles on campus. We are excited to announce that 100% of our classmates have donated to the gift, raising $3,800 total. We wanted to extend a huge thank you to our classmates that participated in this class gift. We also wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you to Dr. Palmer for his support and input during this process. Thank you.
On behalf of Principia College, I'm delighted to accept this gift. Congratulations are indeed in order. Achieving 100% participation takes no small amount of effort. These additional stations are most welcome. We'll now hear from our senior class speakers, Nick Peschke, Bree Burns, Vanessa Ramirez-Hasso, and Robbie Butler. Senior class marshals, Cha-Cha Fisher and Shane Witters-Hicks, will provide the introductions.
Our first speaker is Nick Peschke. Nick Peschke is quite a Renaissance man. The coolest thing about Nick is his ability to balance crazy, fun-loving expressions of joy with deep, meaningful thought and passion for his interests. Nick has 0 inhibitions. He'll make you smile with his surprisingly malleable face and body, making expressions you never imagined were physically possible. These combine with his imaginative impressions, ranging from a delicate, articulate, cheese-loving Francophile to an old, hunched-over grandfather named Uncle Sam, who grew up in the fertile river valley of Mesopotamia. Nick's best friend, Timmy, will attest that anybody who ever eats a meal with Nick in the Principia dining room must allot twice the expected amount of time, because Nick will talk to literally every single person in the scramble room before paying for his food. And he'll take even longer to finish his food because he's so busy connecting with people. On the serious side, Nick is a deeply thoughtful person and a globally minded thinker. He's a French major, but he also has minors in international relations and religion. I traveled with him to Geneva with Principia's Leadership Institute, and I witnessed him making friends wherever we went, whether that was in a 5-minute coffee shop conversation in French or an hour-long train car discussion in German. At Principia, Nick has been a house president, the student body vice president, a resident assistant, and the +1 a cappella club president. His love for theater was evident in his role as Jesus in Principia's production of Godspell. Last summer, he even worked as a hired actor in Nebraska. He also played trumpet and sang for Principia's Arts on Tour twice. And let me tell you, I've never seen anyone happier or more joyful than Nick when he plays the trumpet. Nick is headed to Camp Owatonna for this summer, but next year you'll find him in Toulouse, France, teaching English to high school and middle school students. After 8 months there, he hopes to pursue a career in international work or diplomacy. Regardless of what he's doing, he's sure to bring a goofy smile and heartfelt enthusiasm to anyone he befriends along the way. Let's welcome Nick.
Thank you, Cha. All right. If you were to search through photos on my Facebook, you'll probably find a 1-year-old Nick in a Principia College onesie. Obviously, I've grown a few sizes since then, but something I have not grown out of and hope to never grow out of is the sense of childlikeness that Principia fosters. Mary Baker Eddy writes in miscellaneous writings, quote, "Beloved children, the world has need of you, and more as children than as men and women," end quote. Principia is one of the few colleges that actually nurtures and encourages that childlikeness. Instead of having to prove our manliness or womanliness, we get to prove our innocence and purity. Where else could I have openly yodeled and not be booed off the stage? Speaking of onesies, Friday Night Fun qualified as going to Target and trying on onesies in the pajama aisle. And we had no qualms asking a random woman in the maternity section to take our photo as we were strutting our stuff in zebra-patterned fleece. That picture is also posted on Facebook. Timmy, Sam. As students coming into adulthood, all of us have faced pressures to have our lives figured out to a T. Being an adult seems like having all the answers and living on some sort of permanent outline. I know I'm probably not the only one who faced the bombardment of questions this past year. So, Nick, what's the next step? Where are you going next year? What do you see yourself doing? It wasn't until a month ago that I would smile with false confidence and list off some options, even though on the inside, I had no idea where I was going. We all face these questions that take us away from a childlike mindset. But to combat this sort of challenge, Jesus said, quote, "Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven." End quote. While in the theater department's production of Godspell, I simultaneously studied the Gospels in my New Testament class. This reminded me that despite all the heaviness Jesus endured, one of his key instructions was to become as a little child. Being childlike is maintaining our joy, and Jesus said that's the kingdom of heaven. I have experienced some of the most joyful times on campus with the jazz band and +1 a cappella. What better way to express joy than through music? But it was not just the music that was magical. From imitating Julia Child to my fellow musicians coming up with funny sounds to communicate, for example, there are no limits to the fun had during and in between rehearsals. It didn't matter how goofy we were, my professor in jazz, Joe Van Riper, would never hesitate to jump on board. Our trip to New Orleans my freshman year was filled with laughter, singing on the streets and in parking lots, and many an impersonation of Uncle Sam, who became Papa Odie, a gumbo-loving New Orleans native. So there's more where that came from. All right, let's remember that it's the whole world that needs our joy, not just our immediate circle. That's why I majored in French. Not only to expand my frame of reference, but also to encourage myself to constantly be in a receptive state of mind. After having studied French for the past 10 years, I have learned that it takes childlike receptivity to progress in a language. As my French professor, Madame Brown, always taught me, "Nicolas, you need to press the save button, okay?" She also said, "Petit à petit, l'oiseau fait son nid." Little by little, the bird makes their nest. Through demonstrating this receptivity in my learning, I became curious and enjoyed classes much more. All at once, class time wasn't long enough. It became my time to really explore, and my conversations with Madame continued in that same respect. We would talk for hours on subjects such as history, philosophy, spirituality, and morality in both French and English, and I soaked up every second. Now, where do I take this knowledge? Anything we do nowadays, and wherever we go, we will interact and impact people from beyond our immediate circles. Wherever we are, people are watching, What will they see? Now is the time to see this as an opportunity rather than as a pressure. Next year, as I head to France, I'm bearing this in mind. You all may have heard of the book The Little Prince, or Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. It is one of the most beloved books in France today, and it speaks to the importance of maintaining our childlikeness even as we take on the responsibilities of adulthood. Toutes les grandes personnes ont d'abord été des enfants, mais peu d'entre elles s'en souviennent. All grown-ups were once children, but only few of them remember it. Let's be the few who do remember that being childlike is not a finite expression, and let's bring that to the world. Merci.
To borrow a phrase from Mary Baker Eddy, Bree Burns is a gentle beam of living love. To be honest, when I first met Bree, I was a little thrown off. I asked myself, how can someone be this nice all the time? I thought for sure it couldn't be real, or maybe she was just trying to make a good impression. But no, my friends, after 4 years, I can attest that her kindness is nothing but absolute, genuine care for others. She consistently looks for ways to support others and bless the community she loves so much. Bree is pretty visible with her bright red hair, but she's more widely recognized by her constant, pure joy that she shares with every single person she comes in contact with, even if that's just holding the door open for you. If you ever give Bree a compliment, be warned, there's a better compliment coming right back at you. You'll never win a compliment war with Bree Burns. Hers will be a familiar voice, as you've heard her inspired testimonies uplift org services. People even reference Bree in their own testimonies, myself included. Bree's passion for Christian Science led her to be involved in the Christian Science organization here on campus, serving on several committees as a reader, and this semester as the chair of the lecture committee. She's a double major in political science and environmental studies, and a double minor in sustainability and global perspectives. Bree has been involved with the Public Affairs Conference for 3 years now, and was one of the directors of the conference this year. She was a resident assistant and the captain of the cross-country and track teams. Bree feels led to dedicate her career to Christian Science, and after graduation, you'll find her at the Mother Church in an events planning internship. I'll welcome Bree up to the stage to talk about her experience with Christian Science at Principia, and maybe defy some pre-existing assumptions about her relationship with it. Without further ado, Bree Burns.
Thank you, Cha. People seem to think that I'm always on fire about Christian Science. But this isn't the case. I don't always feel good about my practice of Christian Science. It's often hard to find inspiration, and I regularly question my own spiritual progress. Growing up, I went to Sunday school, but I rarely thought about God aside from that. When I didn't feel good, I could choose whether I wanted to pray about the situation or go see a doctor. I chose the medical route to address a number of challenges, including an irregular heartbeat, which would leave me so dizzy at the end of high school cross-country races, I would often collapse. I spent weeks in and out of the hospital, wearing a heart monitor, getting EKGs and other medical tests done, and in the end, was told that maybe running just shouldn't be my sport. Though I didn't dislike Christian Science at that time, I definitely didn't feel good about it, or expect that it could heal something as challenging as a heart condition. The summer before my senior year of high school, things began to change. I was 18 and hungering for how I would define myself. At that time, my mom introduced me to the Christian Science Bible lessons, and I was awestruck. Those lessons articulated exactly how I felt every person in the world deserved to be treated. Suddenly, I had a huge desire to learn more about Christian Science and how I could apply it to my life. So, in one fell swoop, I wagered my entire college experience on a few months of lesson reading and committed to coming to Principia. As I left my house to drive to freshman orientation, it hit me that for the first time in my life, I was going to be expected to rely solely on prayer for healing. I immediately started crying, and the tears continued for the next 1,000 miles of that trip. Luckily, I was going to the right place to learn about relying wholeheartedly on science. The fall of my freshman year, I joined the cross-country team. Week 1 of running for Prin, I began to feel symptoms of the heart challenge I had previously dealt with. But I was surrounded by practicing Christian scientists who were actively maintaining an uplifted atmosphere of thought. With their support, the healing was instantaneous. The heartbeat became regular, the dizziness disappeared, and the problem has never bothered me again, even though running has become my year-round sport. Thank you. By week 3 of my freshman year, I had developed a huge crush on Christian Science. I talked about Christian Science with all my friends. I did everything I could to spend time with Christian Science. I was totally giddy when I called my mom to tell her about my recent developments with Christian Science, and I basically thought we were going to get married even though we barely knew each other. But like every good crush, one day you realize that real relationships are a lot of work. And if you're not interested in putting in adequate time, the romance fizzles right out. For me, that was my sophomore year. Put bluntly, I got tired with the amount of work Christian Science took. When I finished doing homework at 2 a.m., my bed sounded far more appealing than sitting down to study the lesson. And the quiet time we observe on campus each day to prayerfully support Principia was the perfect slot for a 20-minute nap. Christian Science took time, energy, and enthusiasm I thought I didn't have, so I basically stopped practicing. Simultaneously, a good friend of mine was struggling with some severe physical challenges. This really scared me. I couldn't understand why an entirely good God could let something like this happen to one of my closest friends, and I blamed myself every day for not being able to heal her. I let feelings of doubt run rampant until I realized that in times of need, my friend was looking for spiritual support, and I had nothing of substance to offer her because I wasn't studying. So I asked myself, was I capable of seeking genuine spiritual progress even though I didn't feel good about Christian Science? My answer came in the form of a book, and plot twist, it's not the book you were all thinking of. I turned to a copy of Christian Healer, a biography of Mrs. Eddy, the discoverer and founder of Christian Science. I promised myself I would read 10 pages of Christian Healer every single night until I found some sort of inspiration that could help me. I honestly had to push myself through the first 50 pages of that book like it was some sort of required assignment. But I made myself read those 10 pages every single night because I didn't know what else to do. Slowly, the book became more and more interesting. It struck me that Mrs. Eddy was by far the best Christian Scientist I knew of, but even her life was not free from challenge. She lost loved ones, went through a divorce, was maligned by the press, was incredibly busy, and yet she let every one of these challenges push her to grow in her understanding of God. I realized that I had been viewing the challenges in my life as major roadblocks to my spiritual progress, when I should have been viewing them as stepping stones in my spiritual journey. Gaining this new perspective, I had a complete healing. By the last chapter of that book, reading was no longer an assignment. It was my favorite part of every day, and I began browsing through all sorts of books by and about Mrs. Eddy. Taking the time to study Christian Science on a daily basis gave me inspiration to share with others, including my friend who was in need. Being able to effectively support my friend showed me just how valuable that daily study really was. And I felt what had once been a freshman crush on Christian Science turning into a genuine love. A genuine love of Christian Science is a big deal, and I am definitely still figuring out what that means. But to me, it's not feeling warm and fuzzy about Christian Science all the time. It's way more real than that. Mrs. Eddy says, quote, "I make strong demands on love, call for active witnesses to prove it, and noble sacrifices and grand achievements as its results. Unless these appear, I cast aside the word as a sham and counterfeit, having no ring of the true metal," end quote. Genuine love takes work. It might mean sacrificing sleep to study the lesson, or remaining patient when healing seems nearly impossible to experience. It requires putting your whole heart into it, even on the days when you feel most frustrated by it. But it's something worth fighting for, because when the waters get rough, as they undoubtedly will at some point, genuine love will not leave you. It will be there to see you through the challenges and give you something you can always rely on. So I encourage you, if there's ever a time you are not feeling good about Christian Science, don't be disheartened. You are not alone. But know that loving Christian Science, being willing to put in the work even on the hardest days, will turn roadblocks into stepping stones, which ultimately lead to fulfilling spiritual progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Bree. Vanessa exhibits a zest for life, which I haven't seen matched by many others. Have you had a chance to catch her roller skating around the chapel green, gleefully reliving her competitive glory days in Mexico? Vanessa used to speed skate competitively and was ranked 9th in her native Mexico at one point. People often admire Vanessa for being so composed and thoughtful, which I've personally experienced on numerous occasions. Furthermore, one of Vanessa's greatest joys in life is to make others laugh, which she often achieves through her silly personality and really bad jokes, as she puts it. But over the years, I feel like I've caught little glimpses of an even more spontaneous side of Vanessa, an almost devilish deviation from the calm composure, known only by a close circle of friends. One friend recalled an instance while hiking a mountain where neither she nor Vanessa realized that the area is converted to a downhill mountain bike resort in the summer. But instead of finding a different route down the mountain, as most people might to avoid the daredevil riders, Vanessa decided to join them. In Harry Potter-like fashion, she grabbed a large stick for her bike and raced down the trail on her feet, making race car noises. I don't know about you, but I get a huge kick imagining our gentle Vanessa careening around berms, dodging the actual bikers and yelling, Vanessa's choice here has actually inspired me to ask for a Nimbus 2000 instead of a full suspension Gary Fisher for my next birthday. Want to hear more funny stories about Vanessa? Just ask anyone on the women's soccer team about her alter ego, Nancy. Or ask one of the New Zealand abroaders about the Vegemite bagel incident. So, what do we have so far? Quiet, gentle, talented, wonderfully spontaneous, hilarious, sassy Nancy alter ego. Is there more to the Vanessa we know and love than these qualities? I've probably only begun to scratch the surface, and it might take a heart-to-heart with Nancy to reveal more. But in the meantime, please help me welcome our dear Vanessa Ramirez-Hasso to the stage to share her far-reaching wisdom and humor with us.
A new beginning is how I felt when I arrived to Principia College. Prior to moving to California from Mexico, life was sweet and warm as a cup of Mexican abuelita hot chocolate. If you know what I'm talking about, it's the good stuff. As the youngest from my immediate and extended family, I was spoiled with a lot of love and attention that allowed me to express myself freely. In the blink of an eye, this freedom and love-filled life rapidly changed in 8th grade when I left home for California. Unfamiliar with a new culture, a new school, and a different language, I struggled finding happiness facing so much change. While my immediate family and new branch church supported me greatly, speaking only a little English limited my ability to express my true self. For most of high school, English restricted how much I spoke and interacted with others. Fear of speaking incorrectly made me very self-conscious, creating a shy Vanessa. Being patient and working hard in my intense beginner English classes, I made progress, yet remained self-conscious of how others saw me. While at Principia, my self-consciousness was particularly limiting during my time playing for the women's soccer team. Before arriving for soccer sports camp, I had so many mixed feelings about the journey I was about to embark on. In high school, I had only played JV soccer, and during the off seasons, I played club soccer with a team whose skills varied from brand new to a few seasons of experience. At the beginning of my journey with the Principia women's soccer team, I had a difficult time transitioning to collegiate soccer, where the skill and intensity of the game was much higher. The ball was constantly kicked like pinball from one player to another, which intimidated me. Freshman year, I spent most games sitting on the bench waiting for my opportunity to play. While sometimes I was frustrated for not playing, most times I was glad to be off the field because I was not very good, and playing meant there was a high probability my mistakes would negatively impact my team. Knowing that there were much better players on my team, I was self-conscious about how I played. Mesmerized with my limitations, I lived with an unhealthy mental state that continued through sophomore year, making soccer less and less exciting in my life. Surely, the self-centered mentality led me to nowhere good, except to more frustration. Looking back, I am glad to say that this low point helped me realize my motives needed to change. Thanks to my teammates and coaches' loving support, I was challenged to get outside of myself and change how I lived and played soccer. During hard practices, particularly full field sprints, the coaches would repeatedly encourage us to run for your teammates. For a long time, that phrase gave me zero motivation to work harder. I just didn't grasp how pushing myself to work harder was going to help my teammates become better. Finally, one day, one of my patient coaches explained to me the twofold benefit of working hard for someone else. When one works hard to benefit themselves, that is all that is accomplished. On the other hand, when one works hard to be their best and push their teammates to work harder, it's an act of selfless love. In this case, both individuals grow, benefiting the team's endurance with purposeful love. Not surprisingly, our community's expression of unconditional love, including my team's, freed me from a self-conscious mentality, revealing the divine right we have to love and be loved. At this point, I realized that regardless of playing in the games or not, gaining freedom from fear and a lack of confidence led to understanding my true source of being. This change of thought had a greater effect in my junior and senior years of college. Instead of physically and mentally sitting on the bench with fear and thought, love with capital L allowed me to confidently mobilize my actions for the good of those around me. serving and glorifying God. This motive, revealed as a divine right and duty, gave me a bigger purpose. For the last 2 seasons of soccer, playing with love instead of fear, I witnessed a big difference in how I played. My ability to kick the ball with the motive to help my teammates made each pass better. Improvement then became natural, since I no longer played for myself, but for God and for the good of the whole team. Striving to rid myself from human ego and letting love manifest itself in my daily living is one of the greatest lessons I learned during my time at Principia College. Whether playing on the field, sitting on the bench, in class, or anywhere, humility to rid myself of personal ambitions and let God reflect himself through me has been a huge help in all aspects of my life, those being academics, leadership positions, relationships, and my practice of Christian Science. In Science and Health, our leader, Mary Baccalaureate, says, quote, "Whatever holds human thought in line with unself love receives directly the divine power." End of quote. This power Mrs. Eddy talks about, I believe, is the ultimate form of love, healing. Through my 4 years of soccer, I witnessed countless healings take place. While many were physical, many were healings of character, including my transformation from self-centered human ego to spiritual unselfed love. This understanding has enabled me to see just how acting unselfishly is the most compassionate blessing I feel we can give to humanity. Before leaving the podium, I'd like to end with a message from the founder of Principia, Mary Kimball Morgan. In her commencement address to the class of 1934, she says, quote, "A life of selfless service is the only road to genuine happiness. Men and women who forget self and aspire to serve God and mankind learn the meaning of the joy of an endless life. If I had the power to bring into your lives the richest possible blessing, I would do it through helping you to lose sight of self-interest and self-centeredness, and to find your joy and love for God and man." End of quote. With unselfish love from others, not my personal love, I found my joy again, and I couldn't be more grateful to attest this blessing with you today. The love we naturally carry within is a divine right we have as children of God and partakers of love. As we live our warm and love-filled community, I trust that your desire to love and bless mankind will always employ you. Thank you.
Robbie Butler. How can I adequately introduce a guy who has brought such a diversity of blessings to this campus? Some of you may know Robbie best with a mouthguard half hanging out of his mouth, while he shouts incomprehensible commands and encouragement to his teammates. Others may only recognize him in one of his prominent leadership roles on campus as the student body vice president or president of the Christian Science organization. But many of you likely don't know Robbie as that guy who sets between 8 and 10 alarms each night, no joke, to ensure that he wakes up in time to read the weekly Bible lesson before class. This articulate leader who we know today wasn't born spewing pure poetry or inspiring and motivating everyone he's around. He's grown a lot. For example, as a freshman, he never thought to make his bed. Now, he still doesn't make his bed, but at least he thinks about it. And like many of us, he's also had his fair share of less elegant blunders. One day at the Principia Upper School, Robbie was talking with a teacher when, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Dr. Palmer stroll up to him. What he didn't see was Dr. Palmer's outstretched hand waiting to be shaken. After a substantial amount of time, undoubtedly prolonged by the jitters, Robbie finally turned to face Dr. Palmer just in time to see the slightly crestfallen Principia legend slowly lower his hand. The full nature of the encounter didn't fully register with Robbie until Dr. Palmer had walked away, at which point his first thought was, OMG, that was Dr. Palmer. However, I'm happy to report that after several years of dedicated service to student government and other high-level roles within the community, Robbie's relationship with Dr. Palmer has been fully restored. No matter who you are, you likely know Robbie as a man who carries with him a light of extreme kindness, strong leadership, and exceptional vibrance. Furthermore, he's a guy with perhaps the most genial personality you've ever met. Please join me in welcoming a man who, to me, embodies the nature of the Christ so clearly, Robbie Butler.
Thank you, Shane. Everyone on campus is training for something. Whether our training is short-term or long-term, we're all practicing our individual crafts to create something bigger and better than what we currently can produce. Sports teaches good lessons about effective training. In high school, I decided that I wanted to become smart enough in my athletic training so that I could get as much benefit as possible out of my time spent working out. So I began to look into different strength training regimens online. After a long search, I found a system that made bold claims for its effectiveness, was logic-based with no contradictions, had a huge body of testifiers who could vouch for its value, and which offered a unique approach to my goal of physical strength. I was totally hooked, and I started to study this system a lot. I read textbooks on weightlifting cover to cover, pouring my life into learning more, and by the time I reached college, I was a pretty smart cookie in the weight room. An average day in the life of Robbie looked like weightlifting in the morning with friends, 3 or 4 huge meals a day, watching technique videos during some classes, weightlifting with the rugby team in the afternoon, and reading about weightlifting at night. Literally, all my thoughts were on weightlifting. I loved it and wanted to think of nothing else. This was not an entirely positive experience, however. I was severely critical of others' training methods and habits. I couldn't be in a weight room without analyzing other people's weightlifting, and it often wasn't a positive appraisal. This was not a very Christian way to live. In fact, those thoughts I had were pretty egotistical. Other downsides to this highly body-focused education included a pretty injury-filled freshman year playing rugby. After freshman year of college, I attended a 3-day weightlifting seminar. I was in literal weightlifting heaven, at the peak of my weightlifting obsession. After the first day, the belief of a stomach disease kept me awake for most of that night, very uncomfortably. By working with a Christian Science practitioner, I was able to continue lifting the next day and finish the seminar. After the 3 days, something was different. I didn't feel the frenzy of weightlifting fervor I usually felt. In a rare moment of real self-reflection, I took stock of where I was going in life and what I really wanted. I made a few key realizations. During the seminar, my physical strength had failed, and the prayers of a practitioner had saved me. But I was studying and thinking far more about weightlifting every single day than I was about anything else, and that included Christian Science. What path would this obsession put me on? Mary Baker Eddy writes in Science and Health, quote, "We must look where we would walk, and we must act as possessing all power from him in whom we have our being," end quote. So how was I acting? I realized if I was studying weightlifting more than I was studying Christian Science, I would never really understand Christian Science. Mrs. Eddy says, quote, "Divine mind rightly demands man's entire affection, obedience, and strength," end quote. So I began attending church with conviction instead of curiosity. I started studying Christian Science with greater intensity and frequency and spending my time serving church. This turned into wonderful leadership opportunities in the next few years. So, was this transition worthless? No. Weightlifting is a full sport and offers many opportunities to express God. But the training habits I learned through this avenue could be applied to growth in Christian Science. I could turn my own deep study to the Bible and Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. Testifiers to the power of Christian Science write articles to help my understanding grow. I could train myself by practicing Christian healing in my experience. And a proper understanding of our leader, Mary Baker Eddy, will keep my feet firmly planted in the way God directs. Christian Science eventually took on a new meaning in my life. I saw that it held no contradictions. It made strong claims for its effectiveness. It offered a unique approach to life, which spoke deeply to my heart. And it held a necessity of proof that would make, quote, every step of progress a step more spiritual, end quote, as Mary Baker Eddy writes. All that training in the weight room had taught me how to get good at something. I took the same approach to becoming a better weightlifter and applied it to Christian Science. And this was inspiring training. This transition is perfectly illustrated by an experience I had over winter break. I was snowboarding with my family in pretty bad weather conditions, and I fell, hitting my shoulder so forcefully, I was surprised my arm was still attached. The claim was so aggressive that I couldn't use my arm for anything but basic balance. I was concerned that this injury was going to last through rugby season, and that I would be bothered with it for the long term. However, up to that point in my vacation, I'd been doing an extensive amount of metaphysical study. My spiritual training had been good, and now it was time to put that into practice. I made a decision to pray each morning about this issue rather than go lifting in the morning with my relatives, something I really did want to do. The outcome of that choice was a lot of spiritual growth, and although the healing took about a week to be complete, in 4 months of intense rugby since that vacation, my shoulder has never bothered me again. Get this. Weightlifting education says once a shoulder has undergone damage, it stays that way. But that is not the truth. On this vacation, I put first things first and had a great healing. As I look to my life after college, I now know that for every new lesson I learn, I will always keep a firm grasp on my spiritual education. I've made a choice about what I want to learn, and it's a choice I'll feel good about for eternity. I've learned that if you work to improve in Christian Science the way you work to improve in anything else, you will see progress and eventually the fruits of your labors. After learning this lesson, I can still have an excellent time in any weight room in the world, but I can also absolutely love my study of Christian Science, and that will bless in ways that I'm only just beginning to see. Thank you.
I'd like to ask our speakers to remain on stage for just a moment. You're all standing, so what we're doing now, on behalf of Dr. Palmer this year, I'm pleased to present each of you a medal recognizing your participation in Baccalaureate 2018. These are designed to be worn with your gown at commencement with sincere gratitude. And wasn't this just a wonderful selection of speeches to listen to? Much better than sermons. I'm going to start by presenting the medals to the senior class agents. First, Cha-Cha. And secondly to Shane. And to our senior class speakers. Thank you so much. Well deserved. Now, just a reminder about tomorrow's commencement schedule. The buffet luncheon in the dining hall begins at 11:15 a.m. and will close at 1 p.m. For those with children 3 years old and younger who have not arranged for childcare during commencement, please be kind to the usher who will ask you to move to the lobby in Cox for the duration of the ceremony. We have provided seating along with a video monitor, so you'll be able to see your graduate walk across the stage. Thank you for your help. Cox Auditorium doors will open at 1 p.m. on Saturday, a change from 1:15 p.m. to give you a bit of extra time so that everyone has a chance to be seated. The processional begins at 2 p.m. This year, because of my presiding duties, it will be led by Deputy Faculty Grand Marshal Dr. Tom Fuller. At the end of the ceremony, and as our graduates leave Cox Auditorium, all of our resident life staff and other Principians will line the colonnade and celebrate our graduates as they proceed to the chapel green, where the faculty will be waiting to welcome them and all of you. And lastly tonight, and I hesitate to tell you this before the last hymn is sung, there will be free milkshakes at the pub, all ready-made and ready to go. Pub shakes will be handed out on a first-come, first-served basis. And I can tell you from personal experience, they will go fast, but please don't leave yet. You will notice in the program that there are 2 musical selections listed. The Principia Dixieland Jazz Band will actually be playing on the pub patio, so you'll have a chance to hear them there. We'll now hear Principia's Praise Choir sing 2 African praise hymns written by Soli Malangu, a South African pastor who most sincerely believes this is God's time. I will ask David Njau, who has done incredible work as a postgraduate teaching intern with the music department this year, to present the program and afterwards to close out our baccalaureate. David?
One, two. Yes, we're on. Thank you, Duncan, and thank you all for coming. And I want to thank the choir so much for the kind of dedication that they have put into learning this music. A lot of the people on stage right now actually have had a very short time, probably less than an hour, to learn the music. But they have not only imbibed the notes and the rhythms, but the spirit of the music, which is celebration and joy, which we all have the capacity for, correct? Is that right? Okay. The first song that we're gonna sing, actually, I don't know if I'm always tempted to call people to move farther, forward because I always say that this music, the context for which it's written, is such that it's not to be performed for the audience, but rather to be performed with the audience. So we might actually be your audience in that regard. So if at all you can move further down, please do so. If you can do it, do it. Yeah. There you go, Zach. There. Ah, this is good. This is wonderful. This is amazing. There you go. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Ah, there you go. I love this. I love this. This is great. This is great. This is wonderful. And the first song we're going to sing is called Siyabonga. This is a song from South Africa, and Siyabonga is a Zulu word, which means what? Yes, Colleen tells us it means thank you, and she is right. Siyabonga to you, Colleen. There you go. All right, are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? There you go. Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, Siyabonga. Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, Siyabonga. Hey Wahamanati, Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, Siyabonga. Oh Wahamanati, Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, Siyabonga. Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, oh Wahamanati, Siyabonga. Wahamanati, Wahamanati, We're saying that he has walked with us, and it's for that reason that we thank him. And we're just signifying that. Hey. Seniors can attest to this. He has walked with you. Come on, get up. If you're a senior in the house, come on, get up. Seniors in the house, get up. Once again, that song says, Wahamba Nachi is to say, you have walked with us. Siyabonga. And you know, in this season, with it in mind that seniors are graduating tomorrow, you know, that I can't think of a more fitting message, right? You know, and those also who are not seniors have graduated from this semester, and you know, will graduate sometime before the end of the century. You know, so and so thus far, God has worked with us, and that's the spirit of that song. And the next song is that song is from South Africa. The next one is from Zimbabwe. My name is David, and I'm from Kenya. I should have said that. So this is equally a foreign song to me, but the spirit of it is not foreign to me or to any of you, because the song is called Tambira. Tambira means dance, and it's called Tambira Jehovah, meaning dance to the Lord, okay? Where's Nick? Yeah, Nick just reminded us about childlikeness. You know? And so this is your moment to express that, okay? To express that childlikeness, to express that freedom in dancing for the Lord, okay? All right, here we go.
Tambira Jehovah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We always have a reason to celebrate. Keep the joy on. Keep the joy on. You have every reason to keep the joy on. And you also have every reason to go for a shake at the pub. That's something you don't want to forget. You need to recharge. And while doing that, the Dixieland will be playing. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful night and a great weekend.